Now going on to the flip side, these are the shows that I believe that just really overstayed their welcome, or would have been better off if they were just cut short by an episode or two. Starting off with probably the most controversial pick on my entire list is the original Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, this was, I believe, a 26 episode series with 2 movies, and there's absolutely no need for any of that. They could have spent 24 episodes and cut out those last 2 episodes. They were way over budget by the time those last 2 episodes came around, and the Death and Rebirth movie was simply a repackaging of this original Neon Genesis Evangelion in a very poor manner. And the end of Evangelion, while it was doing good in the first half of it, the last half is by far one of the worst shows of symbolic references I've ever seen, requiring college level PhDs to even begin to understand it. And moving on to something that's almost as bad as Evangelion because of controversy would be Clannad. Now, I absolutely adore Clannad. Do not think I dislike or hate it in any kind of way. But let's be honest, a few of those arcs that were put in there could have easily just been taken out to make the show only 35 or 40 episodes. For example, Kotomi, her entire arc and pretty much her entire character could have been erased from the show and nothing would have changed. And also, there's the librarian girl who had the brother in the hospital. That could have been taken out. That was not a good way to start off After Story. Now, Claymore is by far one of the best shonens to ever come out with an example of how to create female characters in manga that all mangakas should strive to be like in creating their own female characters. But in the last 2 episodes, it completely diverged from what the manga had planned out, and they chose to put in a fight against Priscilla. And the worst part is that the way they ended it, in which it looked like Claire actually beat Priscilla, which is clearly not the case. So if you read the manga, you know just how devastating Priscilla is and how far away anyone is from ever being able to come close to reaching her. Alright, putting another Gundam on these lists, I'm choosing Gundam Wing. Now, I watched this about 2 or 3 years ago, so I have nostalgia value that most others would. And this is the worst Gundam I've watched. It was just so slow and monotonous and dragged out. And in my opinion, if you wanted to go watch a Gundam that's like it, but even better, I choose 00, because it's basically like a remake of Gundam Wing, except it's so much superior in every single way. In my opinion, from the characters to the animation, of course, as it came out in 2008, to just the plot line even. It was all done so much better. And I believe it's because Gundam Wing felt so just strung along, like it was just being dragged on, and it could have easily taken 10 or 15 episodes out. And for the shonen fighter of this list, I'm gonna go with Bleach. Bleach is by far probably the best of the big 3, and one of my favorite shonens of all time. But the problem is that out of all of the big 3 and most other shonen, it has some of the most filler, with it being in a ratio of about 1 every 2 episodes or so. The difference being, in comparison to Naruto or One Piece, is that the filler is put into major arcs. So if you get filler, it's in 20 or 30 episodes at a time, with only 1 or 2 episodes here and there in the main stuff, which makes it so much better. But the thing is that if the rate it adapts the manga at about 3 chapters an episode, it could have easily just been a simple 150 to 170 episodes. Instead, we end up with over 366 episodes of Bleach. That is simply way too much, and in this case, I'll put it down to mostly filler bogging it down. Because when it comes down to the main canon material, it moves at such a smooth, buttery pace. At this point, it needs to be more like Inuyasha. Inuyasha, for the most part, had almost no filler at all, being maybe around 15 or 20 for the entire show, and then it ended, came back years later, and chose to do a final act. And that's what Bleach needs right now. It needs to come back in about 3 or 4 years with its own final act covering a 1,000-year blood war, and being around 25 to 40 episodes. And my final pick would be pretty much every Digimon out there. Now, let me elaborate on this. Each Digimon is roughly it's like a Gundam series, each one being about 50 episodes or so. But we know that it can be cut down quite a bit because most of the time it just feels like there's no progression in these episodes and that we're just being slowed down by all these monotonous events that the characters are doing. Digimon should try and be more like Bakugan, another kids show that I was absolutely obsessed with for a while. Now, in the Gundam Invaders, they knew that they didn't have that much material to work with when it came to like the story and plot. For New Destroyer, they managed to stretch it out as far as they could. But Gundam Invaders, they gave it a good, clean 39 episodes, and pretty much every episode, something major happened, and the plot kept on progressing on and on and on. It never really felt like that we were being dragged through the entire show. And that's my list of the series I wish had less episodes that I have currently watched.